Hi, testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you hear me on Zoom? Thank you.
This is an audio check for the room.
Hello. Hello. 1, 2, 3. We should be good. Yes. Please.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be good.
Yeah, so we won't be like.
Might be hot mic in the room. Hot mic. What? Mic on. Okay. I can hear the volume going out. Let me adjust camera. Okay.
And also, somebody had suggested. There's a sign. As well. Yeah. They are in row. That's the other chair. Yeah.
Morning, everyone. We're just gonna be in a minute. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 30th meeting of the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee. Happy to see so many in the gallery today. I'll ask the committee coordinator to call the roll. Kids.
Here.
Rostowski.
Here.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair Kelly. Present. Chair Brown, you have quorum, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Chris. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and or zoning bylaw amendments listed as items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, and 6.6 on today's agenda. For the items just mentioned, only those specifically identified in the Planning Act who make oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendments are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal if Council does not adopt an amendment within 90 days of receipt of the application for a zoning bylaw amendment and 120 days for an official plan amendment. To submit written comments on these amendments prior to their consideration by City Council on the 15th of July 2026, please email or call the committee or council coordinator. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Confirmation of minutes, item 3.1, the ARAC minutes 35 of Thursday, May 7th, 2026, which were our regular meeting minutes. Are those confirmed? And 3.2, minutes 36, Thursday, June 4th, 2026, which was our special meeting. Are those confirmed? Thank you very much. I will note that we have responses to inquiries listed as 4.1 on the agenda, drainage issues in Ward 5. Or 6. I don't believe we need to raise those. Vice Chair, I'm going to ask you to move the motion to add the verbal report to the agenda, if you would.
Indeed, I will, Chair. Whereas the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee at its meeting of February 5th, 2026, directed staff to provide an update on the Rural Summit, including key findings and potential action items. And whereas the initial agenda release for the June 30, 2026 meeting of Heure did not include the presentation providing the requested update to committee. Therefore, be it resolved that the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee approved the addition of item 5.1, verbal report support for rural Ottawa Summit update.
Thank you. Is that carried? Thank you. Now, I am going to hold that item, colleagues, until later on in the agenda so we can move through efficiently. The next item on the agenda is item 6.1, the bylaw amendment for 6158 Rideau Valley Drive. I am going to hold that, recognizing we do have several speakers on the agenda and a presentation by city staff. Item 6.2 is zoning amendment for 912 David Manchester Road. Vice Chair, I believe you have a few questions to staff, and I believe we can move quickly to a vote. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for being here to answer some questions.
Vice Chair,
Yeah.
I'm ahead of myself. We do have the speaker registered for this item. So perhaps I will ask Michelle Coverley. Well, that's sorry, Eric Bays and Stephen Willis. Are those on the team? Mr. Willis and Mr. Bays, if it is the intent of the committee to carry this item, do you wish to speak? Okay, thank you very much. Vice Chair, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is a file that has received quite a bit of attention by the residents in the area where it's being proposed. And I've had the chance to meet with Mr. Willis and the pastor on a number of occasions to hear, what they're looking to achieve. And so I want to just ask about what some of the concerns that you heard from residents in the area, and then maybe this isn't the term you want me to use, but what guarantees the city staff have that the concerns that were raised are being addressed meaningfully by the applicant?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The public comments received in general focused on concerns with the scale for the proposed use, incompatibility with the rural character, and whether or not this use was serving a more broad use for the population of the city rather than rural. There were also some concerns related to servicing, parking, privacy, and other features related to the site layout. In terms of staff's review of the application, at this point in time, we're reviewing a zoning bylaw amendment to add the permitted use of place of worship. So many of the concerns related to parking and setbacks and things of that nature will be addressed through a future site plan control application. In regards to the compatibility with the rural character, the area looks to identify areas that meet the intent of that rural character and scale. For this proposed use, the amendment will only add place of worship as a permitted use while maintaining the existing rural countryside zoning. This would limit any accessory uses such as the sports fields and recreational amenities for the use of only the congregation. So that will keep the scale in line with what is intended for the rural area. As well, the applicant did provide an assessment of parcels within villages and urban areas to look at other locations that may be more suitable. And this property was identified to be central for their congregation and met the parcel size requirements for their development. So
safe to say this will not one day turn into a large, very busy sports facility serving the greater population of the city?
No, the recreational facilities are not an additional permitted use.
One of the key concerns that was raised repeatedly with my office seems to be centered around increased traffic on David Manchester. Can you explain what your analysis came up with in terms of number of vehicles and why you believe it won't have a negative impact on the community?
Yes, the application was reviewed by transportation planning staff who did not identify any concerns. David Manchester Road is identified as a collector road, and such the estimate of 150 vehicle trips additional could be carried within the existing capacity of the road.
I think that concludes my questions for staff, Chair. I might have one for the applicant or Mr. Willis.
Mr. Willis or Mr. Bays, would one of you come down, please?
Thank you both for being here. I know it's been a file we've been discussing for some time, and appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to chat with me and touch base regularly. Did you have any direct conversations with the residents in the area that were involved in, the comments over the last few months in terms of their opposition to the project?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we didn't have either Mr. Willis or myself did not have direct conversations with neighbors. That we were provided with summarized outline of what their concerns were. We talked with city staff, and we did our best to try and respond back to those in addition to the technical comments that staff prepared. One of the things maybe I'll add is that the next step on this isn't a building permit. The next step here is a number of other studies that would need to be completed. An environmental impact statement in more detail would need to be completed. Site plan, grading and drainage to make sure that there's no impacts on neighbors, as well as hydro-G to make sure that the water and wastewater solution is sustainable and isn't impacting neighbors as well. So those are things that we reviewed, and we tried our best to respond back, ensure that the information we provided was accurate.
And with site plan controls still to come and some other studies, as you mentioned, do you see an opportunity to further address concerns from the community around the impact of this project?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor, this is a very large site, so there's a lot of opportunity and flexibility on the design. And I'm sure the pastor and the members of the parish would be happy to meet with local residents if they want to discuss the design when the architect is on board and they work through these plans.
Thank you very much. You got ahead of my next question. I appreciate that. And I assume the answer to this will be yes as well if you're willing to meet with residents. But are you willing to work with me directly? Should this file proceed today with an approval and at council, just to ensure that we're communicating with residents and doing our best to address their concerns?
Through you, Chair, yes, certainly. I'm sure the pastor would be willing to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll just say that this is a scenario I think we've seen many times, both here and at Planning and Housing, where planning staff are 100% satisfied with the planning rationale and the application that you've submitted, or they're at least satisfied with it to proceed. And it doesn't seem like there is a planning rationale to say no to this. And as the local councillor, we often hear from the most vocal people who are opposed to the projects. And so my vote today will reflect my residents' concerns about the project, but I do believe, based on all the facts and the evidence that we're hearing today, that it is likely to proceed. So happy to continue conversations with you and both represent the concerns of my community and work with you directly to make sure those are reflected in the final project. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you to delegates. The report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend Council A, approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 912 David Manchester Road as shown in document 1 to permit a place of worship as detailed in document 2. B, approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2026-50 for 912 David Manchester Road as shown in document 3 to permit a place of worship as detailed in document 4. 2, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation in the summary of written and oral public submissions. I'll ask the committee coordinator to call the roll, please, or the vote.
Councillor Kitts.
Yes.
Councillor Luloff.
Yes.
Councillor Skalski.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly.
No.
And Chair Brown.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you very much. And thank you to those who came to see that today. Item 6.3, minor zoning bylaw amendment for 2933 Breezy Heights Road. There are 2 speakers who have registered. Mr. Eisner.
Morning. Morning.
Morning, floor is yours.
I have a presentation if we could put it up, please. Thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today regarding the zoning amendment for 2933 Breezy Heights Road. This property is an existing agricultural parcel containing 2 legally established dwellings. The newer dwelling was approved and constructed in 2021. A consent to sever was approved by the Committee of Adjustment in May 2025. Next slide, please. The severance application was reviewed by city staff and recommended for approval. The plan was always that the severed and retained properties would each have a dwelling after the severance was completed. Staff agreed and requested that the retained lot be rezoned to permit no further residential development. The decision clearly states that the retained lots and severed lots would each contain an existing dwelling. Next slide, please. The decision included a condition to rezone the retained lands to prohibit residential development. This zoning amendment is intended to satisfy the condition and nothing more. City staff did not appeal the decision. The decision regarding lot creation has already been established and is not here before you here today. Zoning amendments do not establish lot lines. Next slide, please. The staff report recommends refusal based on policies relating to lot creation under the official plan and PPS. Respectfully, those considerations no longer apply. The application is not about whether a new lot should be created. It's about implementing the condition of an already approved consent. Staff have not identified any policies of the official plan nor the PPS that suggest rezoning the retained lot to prohibit further residential development should not occur. When we assess the application on its actual merits, the requested rezoning is both appropriate and consistent with policy. It implements the required restriction on further residential development and supports long-term viability of agricultural lands. Next slide, please. Staff assertion that the refusal of the application would support agricultural viability of the property is not correct. Both dwellings already exist. Refusing the application will not remove a house, restore farmland, or improve the agricultural viability of the land. The severed parcel is already developed and is not used for agriculture. Approval of this rezoning will not reduce the amount of land available for farming on the retained parcel. What the approval will do is allow the owner to satisfy the conditions of a consent and legally convey the severed parcel, as well as retain 2 viable residential structures. This supports the efficient use of existing housing stock at a time when Ottawa is facing a well-documented housing shortage. We respectfully request the committee to approve this request of rezoning because the amendment simply implements a required condition of an approved severance. It conforms with the PPS and official plan when assessed appropriately. It has no impact on agricultural viability, and it enables the sale and use of an existing home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you very much. Roberto, I was just about to call you down. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I'll be very brief. I'm not going to repeat Mr. Eisner's submissions, but I'm counsel for Darius Elsme, the homeowner in this circumstance. And this is a very narrow issue before ARAC. It's a condition that needs to be cleared. The severance has already been approved. And so really the focus needs to be on what the rezoning seeks, which is no future residential development. And again, there's residential development, there are residences that are already there, the structures already exist. The city has an obligation under the Planning Act to have regard to the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, to give that consideration. So again, the key here is that the committee's decision is final and binding. In court, we would call staff's position an abuse of process. And so if the decision were incorrect in the city's view, it should have appealed it. It did not. Flowing from this is the applicant's legitimate expectations. This house was discussed. It was not a secret. This is not an aha moment. This is merely trying to clear the condition that's required. And there's no different information. The big difference is that different staff looked at it. And from a planning rationale, to go back on the severance and rely on those policies is inconsistent with the city's obligations under the Planning Act. So accordingly, we urge the committee to reject staff's recommendation and to instead approve the zoning bylaw amendment application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you very much. Vice Chair, I believe you said you had a question for staff.
Very much, Chair. Obviously, we've just heard the applicant side of the story. Could you fill us in on your rationale for your recommendation for refusal?
Thank you. Through the chair. So when staff looked at a zoning bylaw amendment, we look back at conformity with the official plan and consistency with the provincial planning statement. The surplus farm dwelling severance policies in the PPS, they do require that the retained lands are rezoned to prohibit future residential. That is a requirement that comes directly from the provincial planning statement. So assessing the zoning bylaw amendment, we look at all the policies related to the surplus farm dwelling severance. And part of staff's review was that when the second dwelling was built on the property in 2021, it was under the assumption that it would be for farm labor, that the policy in the official plan at that time permits one principal dwelling and a second detached dwelling for farm labor accommodation. So that was the policy in which they built the house. And then in 2025 is when the application for the consent to sever came through, and the application was for surplus farm dwelling severance. Staff's review of this is that the second dwelling was not made surplus through farm lot consolidation, which is a requirement of the surplus farm dwelling severance policy. There was no farm consolidation, and that is why staff feel that this is not consistent with the official plan or the provincial planning statement. The second piece of that as well is that farm labor cannot be severed on its own. That's not permitted under the official plan or the provincial planning statement. And the third reason that staff were recommending refusal was that we felt that minimum distance separation hadn't been adequately addressed. Without getting too far into the details, but a minimum distance separation is required prior to a consent because the dwelling, which is the sensitive land use, and the livestock operations will be on separate conveyable lots if the zoning bylaw amendment is approved. And because this zoning application is to facilitate the severance, staff feel that MDS and the official plan and the provincial planning statement policies are still applicable and were part of our review of conformity.
So would it be fair to summarize the the goal of everything you've just said, or what we're trying to prevent is landowners from building structures or residences under the guise of farm help and then later severing it off as a residence, and that could potentially chip away at the viable farmland we have available?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm starting to understand planning more. Okay, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate the rationale, and seems I'm supportive of your recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, and I'm not seeing any other questions. The recommendations read as follows. 1, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council refuse an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 and zoning bylaw 2026-50 for part of 2933 Breezy Heights Road as shown in document 1. 2, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation and the summary of written and oral public submissions. Is this item carried? Thank you. Next item is 6.4, official plan amendment for 7650 Snake Island Road. I will just mention that it is in the township of Osgood and not the township of West Carleton March. I don't believe we have any speakers registered for this item, and if it's the will of committee, the report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommends to council approval of an amendment to Volume 2C, area-specific policies of the official plan to permit an expansion to the Osgood Care Centre at 7650 Snake Island Road as detailed in document 2, and 2, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation in the summary of written and oral public submissions. Is this item carried? Thank you. 6.5, highway name change application, Marshall Farm Lane. Again, colleagues, if it's on consent, the report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the highway name change of Houston Place to Marshall Farm Lane as shown in document 1. Is this item carried? Thank you. 6.6, omnibus zoning bylaw amendments and updates on motions and directions concerning the new zoning bylaw. Again, colleagues, if it's the will of committee, the report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council, A, approve the amendments to zoning bylaw number 2008-250 as shown in document 1 and detailed in document 2C. B, approve amendments to zoning bylaw number 2026-50 as shown in document 1 and detailed in document 2C. 2, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council, A, approve amendments to zoning bylaw 2008-250 as shown in document 1 and detailed in document 2A. Approve amendments to zoning bylaw 2008-250 as shown in document 1 and detailed in document 2A. C, receive for information document 3 that provides updates on motions and directions relating to zoning bylaw 2026-50. 3, that the Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation in the summary of written and oral public submissions. Is this item carried? Thank you. Item 6.7, site plan control bylaw update. The report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council direct staff to prepare a final report and any recommended changes to the site plan control bylaw pursuant to the Housing Acceleration Plan, item number 2, and report back to committee and council in Q2 of 2027. Direct staff to explore the implementation of a commence work bylaw to contemplate any recommended changes to the site plan control bylaw and report back to committee and council in Q2 of 2027. And 3, direct staff to include the Ottawa International Airport Economic District within the site plan control bylaw review to streamline the site plan process for developments on the airport lands and reduce regulatory overlap federal processes. Is this item carried? Thank you. Item 6.8, amendments to site plan control bylaw to coordinate with zoning bylaw 2026-50 and to comply with legislative changes to the Planning Act. And again, colleagues, if it's the will of committee, the report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council repeal and replace site plan control bylaw 2014-256 as shown in document 1. Is that item carried? Thank you. Item 6.9, urban design guidelines for buildings, low-rise infill housing. If it is the will of committee, the recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council approve the urban design guidelines for buildings, low-rise infill housing attached as document 1. Is this item carried? Thank you. Item 6.10, amendment to building bylaw 2014-220. If there is a consensus on committee, the report recommendations are that the Planning and Housing and Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council approve the amendments to the building bylaw 2014-220 as detailed in document 1. Is this item carried? Thank you. Item 6.11, secondary plan update. The report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend to council 1, direct staff to not initiate new secondary planning projects for Beechwood, Saint Laurent, Richmond Road, Westboro, and South Keys until further direction is received from the province regarding the use of secondary plans. as a land use planning tool. 2, direct staff to use a concept plan process rather than a secondary planning process for lifting the future neighborhood overlay for the future expansion lands known as S3, Bowesville, Riverside South, and E1, South Orleans, Wall Road lands. Councillor Kitts.
I'd just like to register my dissent on recommendation 2.
So registered. Colleagues, is this item carried with Councillor Kitts' dissent?
I will also dissent on 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So 2 dissents, Councillor Kitts and Luloff on 2 and carried. Thank you.
We may
Mr.
have
Moody.
a quick procedural issue.
There's just a minor typographical error in report recommendation 2B. It currently reads as approve amendments to zoning bylaw 2008-250. It should be 2026-50. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 6.12, amendment to the ATV, ORV, and snowmobile bylaw to extend the expansion pilot project. Before I read in the recommendation, I just want to thank the clubs that worked hard and staff who had the work ahead of them to make this happen. It's been a long process, but I'm pleased to see it has come to fruition and that we're extending the pilot project to ensure that the clubs can enjoy this season next year. So the report recommendations for item 6.12 are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council approve the extension of the ATV Trail Network Expansion Pilot Project for the period of 1 year through the adoption of bylaw amendment attached as document 1. Is this item carried? Carried. Thank you very much. Now, we do have one delegate who registered this morning to speak to item 7.1. So I'm going to hold that, colleagues, for a moment, and we'll continue. The next item is item 8.1, the Thomas R. Baxter Municipal Drain Appointment of Engineer. Colleagues, as you know, this is a very routine item. It will impact Barrhaven Ward 3 and Ward 21. And if it is the will of committee, the report recommendation is the following: that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend that council appoint Mr. Andy Robinson of Robinson Consultants, Inc. under Section 78 of the Drainage Act to prepare a new report to accommodate the land use changes within the existing Thomas Baxter Municipal Drainage Area. Is this item carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Next item is item 9.1, site alteration bylaw amendment. I don't believe we have any delegates for this item, and colleagues, I don't believe anyone wants to hold it. So the report recommendations are that council approve the proposed amendment to site alteration bylaw 2018-164 as attached in document 1. 2, that the general manager, strategic initiatives, and the city solicitor be directed to bring forward the amending bylaw for council enactment. Is this item carried? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.1, status update for Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee inquiries and motions for the period ending the 19th of June, 2026. The report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee receive this report for information. Is this received? Thank you. I don't believe we have any in-camera items. And item 12.1, I will just raise it for committee's awareness. It's an IPD, information previously distributed, submissions to the province on consultations to proposed regulations through the Building, Homes, and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act, which was Bill 98. All right. I'm going to return to item 7.1. Mr. Neville, I believe you're here in person. I'll ask that you come up. You're the only delegate who's registered, and I believe this item will likely proceed quickly. So we'll have you come up. You've got 5 minutes to address committee. Mr. Nelva, if you just want to hit the button at the base, it'll turn green. There you go. You're live.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and councillors, for the opportunity to address this matter. I appear here as a taxpayer of Ottawa with considerable affinity to the village of Richmond. This matter has all the semblance of being open, but it's not transparent. I've looked at the reports that were submitted or prepared by your coordinator, Gary Baker. And it raises questions. There's no background provided as to why a consulting firm in Toronto, a metropolitan community, should deal with a small community like Richmond. You'd think that the city would choose a more suitable consulting agency. What did this cost? This study? And then they come forth with figures which have been altered by the committee. For example, the development charges for industrial and non-industrial land submitted by HAMSO were some $6 per square foot. For non-industrial, some $16 per square foot. When it comes out in the statement by the city, these rates are jacked up to some $7 for industrial and some $17 for non-industrial. Again, there's no definition of what's industrial and what's non-industrial. Supposing a commercial laundry is established in Richmond, there's no such thing now. But what is that? That's not industrial. It's not non-industrial. It's a commercial operation. The same thing for automobile repair. It's not industrial. It's not non-industrial. You're lacking definition. You're lacking specification. You're not industrial, to my mind, is an enterprise that produces widgets that are shipped out and so on like this. You haven't qualified industrial and non-industrial, and yet you've got this disparity of fees. I think the fees for the housing, the spread there is reasonable. But that's what I mean. It's not transparent. And why did the city have to refer to an outside consultant that should be done by in-house staff? It's a matter of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neville. I'm not seeing any questions. Maybe I'll just get a member of staff just to mute the microphone there, please, to avoid feedback. Thanks, Carol. Colleagues, I'm not seeing any questions. The report recommendations are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend that Council, 1, approve the 2026 amendment to the Development Charges Background Study, Village of Richmond, attached as document 1. 2, approve that the City of Ottawa Bylaw 2024-218, the Development Charges Bylaw 2024, be amendment to update the area-specific development charge rates for the Village of Richmond Sanitary Sewer Service Area, as in the draft bylaw attached as document 2. Is this item carried? Thank you very much. All right, colleagues, let's return to item 6.1, bylaw amendment for 6158 Rideau Valley Drive. We do have a presentation from staff that we'll go through first, then we'll move to delegations. So I'll ask staff to come up. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, committee. My name's Jerica Gilbert. I'm a staff with Planning Services, a planner, and I'm here to inform the committee of the aftermath from the refusal of zoning bylaw amendment for 6158 Rideau Valley Drive. So next slide. This file involves Miller's Farm and Market, which is a well-known family farm in the community of Manotick. It became known back in 2021 that some of the activities and growth of the farm's home-based businesses and on-farm diversified uses were not in compliance with the zoning bylaw. A formal zoning bylaw amendment was received on July 16, 2024, and deemed complete by the city in February 2025 after some back and forth with the applicant. Planning staff recommended refusal of the rezoning on November 6, whereas a majority of this committee voted to recommend approval to council. Council did end up refusing the application on November 12th, 2025, and the Millers appealed the decision on December 10th to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Next slide. Now, an important thing to note here that while council did refuse the application on November 12th, the resolution also contained a direction for staff to continue working constructively with the applicant to bring the property into compliance with the zoning bylaw. Further guidance was provided to staff on December 10th with a direction to utilize mediation, conciliation, or other dispute resolution techniques as deemed appropriate with the applicant. Given this direction, staff worked with the applicant to set up a mediation. Mediation is a voluntary and confidential alternative allowed by the Planning Act in place of going to an Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, and involves a neutral third party helping the city and the applicant negotiate a mutually acceptable solution to the problem at hand. Normally, outcomes of mediation or other settlement discussions are reported to committee and council in closed session for consideration. Given this case, to allow those who have expressed opposition to the rezoning an opportunity to make written or oral submissions to this committee, this report that was provided to you today has come before you. I can say that the applicant has agreed to the mediation that is being proposed by staff. So next slide, just as a refresher. 6158 Rideau Valley Drive is designated as agricultural resource area under the official plan and is zoned agricultural with a site-specific exception 147 over a portion of the property that was applied in 2003 to recognize a craft shop, which has now evolved into Miller's Market. The provincial planning statement and the official plan speak to the importance of protecting agriculture while promoting opportunities for economic diversification for farmers through site-appropriate on-farm diversified uses. Next slide. And here we have air photo of the entire lot, which is about 60 hectares. Although we're only concerned with the front portion today where you see the residence and outbuildings on the top left. The site contains a cash crop and berry farm, Miller's Farm and Market, which is a seasonal pick-your-own market and farm outlet, R&S Snow Service, and Miller's Trucking and Excavation. The activities of Miller's Trucking and Excavation prompted bylaw and regulatory services to issue a notice of violation back in 2021 after noise complaints. Next slide. Now, here's where things appear a bit complicated. The original requested rezoning for 6158 Rideau Valley Drive had 4 asks by the applicant. That 51 heavy vehicles be permitted on site instead of 3, that 5,255 square meters of outdoor storage be permitted instead of 100 square meters, removal of the maximum size limit of 115 square meters for a craft shop, and permission to sell items not produced on the premises. The proposed zoning from the mediation discussions are more extensive, so to capture all on-farm diversified uses occurring on the property to ensure that they are operating at a scale that is appropriate for a farm. A key item that staff recommended removal of is a hopper that is currently used by a topsoil bagging operation happening on site, which is marked on the map there by the red X. It's a little difficult to see, but it's kind of in the middle of the image there. The applicant's noise study identified that this specific equipment is being audible from neighboring residential lots, and staff don't think it's an appropriate use to continue on the lot. The number of heavy vehicles permitted on the site will be limited to 32, as opposed to the original requested 51. For this specific site, heavy vehicles will include farm tractors, but not other farm machinery required by the farm for operation. Staff proposed that the cumulative total of all on-farm diversified uses and home-based businesses to be 0.96 hectares, which is under the 1 hectare limit suggested by provincial guidance. As you can see from the concept map, this total will include the building areas highlighted in yellow, A and B being the market, and C being the heavy vehicle and equipment repair that is utilized for some of the businesses, as well as the outdoor storage areas, play areas, temporary and permanent parking locations and laneways noted by the sections 1 through 6 on the concept plan. Recognizing these area totals will limit the operations on site and restrict any expansion of any category of such uses without a further planning application, while providing some flexibility on where uses can occur on site. Next slide. And we just want to make a note, so on the proposed zoning key map, for ease, we're reusing the special exception 147R. And you can review the changes to that provision in the staff report provided. However, since back in the day, exception 147R extended over a larger portion of the property that's actually used in what exists today, we're going to be removing the 147R code over the areas marked in the image above. They will return to the base agricultural zone. Given that the proposed zoning addresses the scale of the operations, staff can support the uses occurring on site. We're happy to answer any questions you might have about what we presented here today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to them.
Thank you very much. First, we'll go to delegates, and the first delegate I'm going to welcome back to the microphone is Roberto.
Morning again, and I have a presentation that could be put up. Thank you. So again, my name is Roberto. I'm here as counsel for Ian and Kathy Merritt, who are located beside 6158 Rideau Valley Drive at 6168, which I'll refer to as the Miller property. And again, they've been living with these disruptions for many years, and there's been a complete disregard of the bylaw with the illegal trucking operations. You've heard from staff. Our clients retained an independent planner. Again, like Mr. Barton, notwithstanding the short turnaround time, did produce another planning opinion that speaks to, again, the concerns about the quantity of trucks being permitted in what is essentially a trucking depot in an agricultural zone, even through this proposal. The original proposal was for 17 times the amount of permitted heavy vehicles, and this is for 10 times the amount of permitted vehicles. So I guess that's progress, but 10 times is still a lot. Go to slide 2, please. So again, this is just showing again where our clients are located with the orange circle, and noting again that the trucking operations included trucking operations, both on the front and in the rear of the property. And again, the proposed resolution still allows, again, 10 times the amount of permitted heavy trucks. So this is not a cessation of Miller paving in this property. It is a scoping of it. To the next slide. And again, some of the images showing the trucking, and again, it's clear it's a trucking yard. To the next slide. And so the history, I know staff spoke to the history. Again, council's concerns from their decision November 12th was that the application was inconsistent with the PPS and would set a concerning precedent for the erosion of protections for agricultural lands and was not in the best interest of rural Ottawa. And I appreciate the Miller's appealed council's decision. Council directed mediation. Now, the Planning Act requires council to invite any person that it considers appropriate to participate in the dispute resolution process. Our clients requested to participate in that process. We sent dozens of emails, were ignored for weeks from December 18th until February 25th when that request was denied. So again, left sort of chasing a non-responsive city lawyer. And so ultimately being denied and not allowed to have a voice in the mediation process. On May 14th, 2026, there was a scheduled case management conference with the Ontario Land Tribunal. Counsel for the Millers stated at the case conference that he forgot about the case conference and that they'd been engaged in mediation, that they tried to adjourn the case management conference. That adjournment request was denied by the tribunal. So from a process standpoint, I think there are opportunities to improve in the future in terms of inclusion. I'm glad that my clients were able to speak today. That is a positive. But I think that process-wise, something remains to be seen in terms of best practices for public engagement through these processes. Slide 5, please. So I won't go through in detail. This is a summary, and you also have in the submissions Mr. Barton's analysis from a planning perspective. But again, talking that this is not an agricultural scale of operation. This is a trucking industrial use. Slide 6. And this resonated from a complaint under the zoning bylaw and got us here today. June 2nd, there was a dumping of salt on our client's property by the Millers that was ordered removed by the Ministry of Environment. Bylaw was non-responsive to calls. I raise this only because we're here because there was a failure to comply with zoning in the past. And so what makes you think that there's going to be compliance in the future?
1 minute.
And so that is our major concerns. You can go to slide 7. Just further pictures. So anyway, we urge the committee to reject the proposal as presented and to proceed with the recommendations from our client as set out in our letter. Thank you. Those are my submissions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Thank you very much for coming today. I'll now ask Chris Napier to come up to the microphone. Thank you very much. Just noting that Mr. Napier has withdrawn his name from the speakers list. I'll then ask Murray Chone and Michael Pollowin to come down. Those are our last 2 delegates. You can come together or separately, your choice. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm Murray Chown, Senior Planning Advisor with Novatech, and with me this morning is Michael Pollowin, well known to you from Gowlings. I'll make a presentation briefly in support of the staff recommendation that's before you this morning. Mr. Pollowin may want to respond to a couple of comments provided by Mr. Roberto. So as staff indicated in their presentation and as directed by council, we participated in a very intense mediation with staff, both planning staff and legal staff, client, ourselves, and Mr. Pollowin, facilitated by Mr. James McKenzie, a very well-respected mediator who has extensive experience as the vice chair of the Ontario Land Tribunal. So coming out of those mediation discussions is the resolution that is before you today, being recommended by staff for approval. And I think I just want to highlight a couple of things from our client's perspective. They have been highlighted by staff, but I do think it's worth repeating. Our client has agreed to relocate the topsoil bagging operation to a new location yet to be determined. And certainly I believe that operation was a significant contributor to the concerns for the neighbor to the south. Our client has agreed to a significant reduction in the number of vehicles that will be stored on site, a significant reduction in the area that will be available for the storage of those vehicles, and has agreed to do very detailed zoning provisions related to the other on-farm diversified uses that are currently active on the site and supporting the agricultural operation. I would ask you to please support, carry the recommendation from staff, recommending that council approve this resolution so we can put this matter to bed. If council fails to do that, then we have an active appeal. It is still active. We would pursue that appeal, and there would certainly be consideration on our part to proceed with the original proposal rather than the proposal that's before you today. So I encourage you to carry the recommendation from staff so we can put this matter to bed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Michael Paulo and I'm counsel to the Miller family and Miller Farms. Two small corrections of what Mr. Roberto said. First, Miller Paving is a national company that has nothing to do with this at all. And second, it's important to note that there is a very long-standing animus between Mr. Roberto's clients and the Millers. I have no idea how much that feeds into their opposition to this, but it's there. Other than that, we do, as staff said, support the staff recommendation, urge you to adopt it. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Mark and planning staff for their positive participation in the mediation. Look, it's not perfect in either direction, but compromise involves some give and take. So again, thank you very much to staff and frankly to council for directing it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the delegates? I don't have any questions, so thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I have a couple comments and questions, but I believe we have the Chief of Bylaw and Regulatory Services, Jake Ravel, here with us today. I'll just ask Jake to come up. Thank you, Chief, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This is a long-standing file, a lot of animosity on both sides. I think the community is looking for a resolution, and I'm hopeful that it passes committee today and council in a few weeks. But I think it's important that we hold the applicant to the commitments that are being offered in the mediated settlement position. My question, through that mediation settlement, there is a deadline for some of the offending practices to cease on site and for the site to come into compliance. Is there an opportunity at that time to have bylaw do a proactive inspection of the property to ensure compliance has been achieved?
Mr. Chair, we will definitely have an opportunity to re-inspect that property to ensure compliance.
Thank you very much, Chief. Colleagues, long file, contentious file, but one again that I think we can move forward on. In November, there was a lot of disagreement, and today we have agreement on this file, both from the applicant's legal team and city staff. And I do want to thank everyone for coming to the table and working on it. It's been a long road. Everyone has put water in their wine, but I honestly believe that a good position of compromise is one where both parties walk away not completely satisfied. So colleagues, again, thank you very much for the work that you have done on this committee, and to city staff who've worked hard to bring us here, our legal team, and the provincial mediator that got us to the position that we are in today. Not seeing any other questions or comments to staff, I'm going to read out the report recommendations. They are that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend that Council endorse seeking an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 6158 Rideau Valley Drive North in accordance with the details of the amendment set forth in document 2. Is the report carried? Thank you very much, and thank you to those who have attended today for this item. Now, colleagues, out of respect for some of the delegates' time, I'm going to ask you once again to do the agenda roller coaster with me. I'd like to go to item 13, the open mic session. We do have 2 registered speakers, Mr. Holmes, certainly no stranger to the committee, followed by Griffin Dick, or if they'd like to present together, that's certainly an option as well. So once the gallery clears, I'll ask Mr. Holmes to come up to the microphone. Is Griffin coming up with you today too?
Sorry, I'm having difficulty with my hearing today.
Is Griffin presenting with you, Ken?
No.
Okay, all right. Well then, the floor is yours. You're no stranger. You got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rural Transportation Solutions has been working with Carleton University over the past year to design a rural transportation model. As part of a 4th-year civil engineering class capstone project, they've designed an on-demand minibus solution for a typical rural village. But we need good survey results now to accurately predict the interest in rural transportation solutions. So Griffin Dick is the Carleton student who's working on the development of the survey as part of a summer student thesis project. Unfortunately, he can't join us today, so I'll explain his work. Next slide, please. We've already conducted several surveys. All the surveys have shown strong support for improved rural bus service, with some 3/4 saying they never use transit, mostly because it's not there, but almost 2/3 say that rural Ottawa would benefit from an improved rural transportation service. Next slide, please. RTS has been advocating for improved rural transportation for some 5 years now. Finally, the Transportation Master Plan states that Ottawa should seek innovative and affordable solutions to remedy the rural transportation shortfall. Hopefully, the Rural Summit report itself will help develop some momentum in this area. In addition to our work with the Carleton University, over the past year, we've been working with a private transportation company, Rolling Luxury, to help them with their proposals for different transportation solutions. But good survey results will be necessary to support any business case. Next slide, please. The goal of this research is to develop a model that will help predict the travel mode choice amongst rural residents. Griffin's research will involve conducting a stated preference survey, building the demand model, and then publishing the results. Participants in the survey will be asked to relate to very specific destinations, such as significant sporting events, recreational activities, and entertainment events that are conducted in urban Ottawa. They'll then be presented with some specific transportation options and asked to state their preference. Next slide, please. Griffin is now finishing up the drafting of the survey and obtaining ethics approval from the college. The questions themselves are straightforward. The survey will be easy to complete, and it's designed to be completed in about 5 to 7 minutes. The survey questions will be quite specific. Next slide, please. We hope all rural councillors will encourage the participation of the residents in this survey. We'll create a poster to announce the survey, including a link to the online survey and a QR code. We hope the information will be widely shared throughout your mailing lists, your newsletters, your calendars, and social media. The RTS group will focus on interacting with the social media sites amongst the large group that exists in rural Ottawa. Next slide, please. The primary outcome of the survey will be the development of a model for predicting transportation mode choices in rural Ottawa. The results will be published as a Carleton University academic paper with the assistance and support of Dr. Adam Weiss, the university supervisor. The resulting model will be made available for use by planners and policymakers. Next slide, please. The success of the survey will be greater if you spread the word across your wards to help the survey reach every rural resident. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
I believe there is, and with 27 seconds to spare, Councillor Skalski.
Thanks, Ken. I just have one question for you. Is there a question within the survey that actually sort of puts to residents the fact that there's a potential that saying they want additional services could also require additional costs in terms of the tax base?
That issue will be dealt with basically in the preamble. We've asked that specific question in a couple of the surveys in the past, basically asking, informing them as to the approximate increase to taxes and asking them if they support a policy that has the transit user paying 50% of the costs, or they think it should be higher or lower. In most cases, residents are saying they think that the user should be paying more than the 50% that's common across the city. We're hoping this is one of the items that will come from the discussion of the staff response to questions that the chair has asked in previous motions, asking the city to look at the service that is being provided now to rural customers. Is it adequate? And are the expenses reasonably shared?
Okay, yeah, it's been my experience that when you start talking about more services, people can get excited, but the second you add on the layer that, you know, we don't, that our transit levies really represent sort of the level of service that is offered today, I think that it becomes a different conversation. So, and people are less interested in new services if it comes at an additional cost. So anyway, I'm happy to hear that there is some dimension of that within the survey. I do hope that we have a better understanding of people's willingness to pay or not pay for additional services as part of this discussion.
Yeah, one of the challenges that we find with any of our surveys is the amount of background work that you have to do to prepare people for the questions. And specifically looking at the tax rate, it's surprising how many people in the rural area assume they pay the same taxes as are paid in urban Ottawa, and then are immediately incensed about that. As a rough rule of thumb, for a house property value, residential property value of around 500,000, a rural resident is paying about 300 per year in taxes, whereas an urban resident is paying about 1,000.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. I'm not seeing any other questions from any member of the committee, but you certainly do drive the bus on this issue, and we're always happy to ride along. But thank you very much for coming and giving us an update as to where it is today.
Thank you.
Have a good summer. Colleagues, I'm going to move to item 14.1, the notice of motion that was previously given by the vice chair for the Dunrobin Parkland. We do have one registered speaker, Debbie Moore Caldwell, who's here. Debbie, always good to see you. Now, Vice Chair, have there been any amendments to the motion, or would you like to read out? Okay.
Good morning. I'm a little bit different than everybody else's presentations today, and I'm gonna just put you back to where we're coming from. The Mary Stuart's Collect, as women's institutes formed across the country in the early 1900s, one such member, Mary Stuart, wrote a prayer called the Collect Club for Women in 1904 to inspire a new generation of women to aspire to greatness. Stuart felt that the new movement of women working together for a collective purpose for a fresh idea and decided that the group deserved its own meditation. The Women's Institutes use this collect throughout the world. It is the official creed for our organization. The collect. Keep us, O Lord, from pettiness. Let us be large in thought, in word, and deed. Let us be done with fault-finding and leave off self-seeking. May we put away all pretense and meet each other face to face without self-pity and without prejudice. May we never be hasty in judgment and always generous. Teach us to put into action our better impulses, straightforward and unafraid. Let us take time for all things. Make us grow calm, serene, and gentle. Grant that we may realize that it is the little things that create differences, that in the big things of life we are one, and may we strive to touch and know the great human heart familiar to us all, and O Lord God, let us not forget to be kind. This is where Women's Institutes come from and what we try to do in our communities. So good morning, distinguished members of the City of Ottawa Rural Affairs Committee, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee. I'm Deborah Moore Caldwell. I am the current co-president of the Dunrobin and District Women's Institute, a branch of the Federated Women's Institutes of Ontario and Canada. To quote an article published May 27th, 2018 by City News and West Carleton Online author Jake Davies. For 100 years, the Dunrobin and District Women's Institute has been a force for advocacy, community volunteering, and a bit of partying. We may have lots of fun, we look after our neighbors, and we advocate. WI President Beth McEwen told the collected celebrants, "The party is nice, but the advocacy is most important." And in true WI fashion, the group focused their anniversary on the history of Dunrobin rather than themselves. That day, more than 70 Dunrobin community members, WI members from around Eastern Ontario, politicians and dignitaries gathered at the former site of Young Husband's store at the intersection of Dunrobin Side Road and Thomas A. Dolan Parkway to dedicate a historical plaque in honor of this important community hub. Mr. and Mrs. Henry Young Husband opened their store in 1861. In 1864, the couple became the area's first postmasters and named the post office Dunrobin after Mrs. Young Husband's birthplace in Scotland. The Young Husband family sold their store more than 100 years later in 1985. The store was torn down in 2008. From 2008 to 2016, this property became an eyesore of our community. The ladies of the WI put a cut Christmas tree up December 2016 with the help of the Dunrobin Community Association. Dunrobin Road, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a main arterial road serving many of the West Carleton waterfront communities. Given the clear view of the corner, many residents appreciated seeing holiday spirit. For the Dunrobin community, unfortunately, disaster struck the spring of 2017 with terrible flooding along the Ottawa River affecting many homes and families. To note, the flooding happened again in 2019, 2023, and 2026. To brighten everyone's spirits, the WI planted a white spruce tree that stood about 8 to 10 feet tall. It's right, nicely positioned where Young Husband's store was. At Christmas, it was adorned with lights. The fall of 2018, a tornado hit this community, but the tree survived. Every year since, the ladies of the WI host a tree lighting ceremony with hot chocolate, carols, decorating, and a surge of community spirit. The tree now stands 25 to 30 feet tall. The lights celebrate the holiday season and the strength and resilience of this community. Despite 4 big floods and a tornado, this community thrives. Dunrobin and District Women's Institute has dedicated more than a decade to enhancing and maintaining the site through volunteer efforts, including the installation and upkeep of gardens, tree plantings, public benches, a community little lending library, a memorial plaque recognizing the young husband family, hitching posts for your horses, and the annual lighting of the Christmas tree celebration. We are very grateful to the West Carleton Warriors Hockey GMC Good Deeds Award recipients for their trees and gardens that they planted and they maintain. They also put lights on their tree and they look great. The site has become a focal point for community activities and informal recreation, providing a place for residents, visitors, cyclists, families, and dog walkers to gather, rest, and socialize. The corner lot has been used as a community viewing area of the fireworks for Canada Day and during other local celebrations. Tomorrow, the Canada Day festivities and fireworks will be held at the Dunrobin Community Centre. However, many people, and you are welcome to join, will bring their lawn chair and sit at the corner of what we're calling our town square to watch the show so they don't have to crank their neck to see the fireworks. The site serves as an important gateway or town square feature in the visual heart of Dunrobin Village, contributing positively to the character, identity, and appearance of this community. Dunrobin Village Town Square is located at 2802 Dunrobin Road. This property has served as a de facto public gathering space since 1861. Many residents view the property as a public park and community green space and have expressed a desire to see its long-term protection and preservation for public use. Many people were surprised when we informed them this isn't an official city park, despite the city owning the property. The community volunteers have experienced challenges assessing municipal programs, grants, conservation initiatives, and other supports due to the site's current designation and status. Please approve this motion to safeguard this historical property. The City of Ottawa has identified the importance of providing and preserving parks, open spaces, and recreational opportunities within rural communities. Therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to review the municipally owned corner lot located at the entrance to Dunrobin Village and report back to Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee on options to designate the property as parkland and incorporate it into the city's parkland inventory. Be it further resolved that the staff review include an assessment of any planning, zoning, operational, financial, or parkland acquisition implications associated with redesigning the property for park purposes. And be it further resolved that the staff consult with the local ward councillor, the Dunrobin and District Women's Institute, the Dunrobin Community Association, and the broader community as part of this review process and report back its recommendations. For Home and Country, thank you, the Dunrobin and District Women's Institute.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Well spoken. We were all entranced by you, but I think the vice chair might have a few comments.
A few comments for sure. Thank you very much for being here today, Debbie. And I want to recognize the 5 ladies behind you and the fact that you stuck it out here for over an hour and heard some other files today before doing this, I think is a testament to your dedication to everything you do. And something you said early on in your delegation, Debbie, I think it was a quote, was that it's not about you, it's about the institution and the community, and that is very obvious in everything that you guys do in the community. And I certainly appreciate it, and I know I'm going to see you tomorrow at Canada Day, and perhaps I will find myself on this exact plot of land watching fireworks tomorrow evening with my daughter. But I do want to say that it is not because of me that this motion is before us today. It is because of you and your advocacy over the last few years. So thank you very much. And I do believe that this motion has support from staff and this committee. So hopefully it'll slide right through council as well. And we can continue working on bringing that plot of land into parkland inventory and create that town square that you have been looking to create for so long and really have created for the community already. So thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being here today. And I look forward to continuing that work as we pursue this project together.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Happy Canada Day to everyone. And I also will do another little community quote in that in 2026, the Queensway Carleton Hospital is celebrating 50 years. And in case the Rural Affairs Committee doesn't realize it, the Queensway Carleton Hospital serves 50% of the population of the city of Ottawa. And they are looking to expand the hospital, and hopefully everybody in this room will help them and show support for that. Thank you very much and happy Canada Day.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Same to you as well, and to the team who've come today. I don't see any other questions, colleagues. Is the motion carried as presented? Thank you very much. Now, colleagues, again, roller coaster agenda here. I'm going to ask that we go to other business, item 17 on the agenda. We do have staff from traffic services here, and I believe there are a few motions that we're going to walk on today, but in the interest of getting the team back to work, we'll hold the Rural Summit report for the very end. So I'm going to ask for a waiver of the rules of procedure, so Councillor Skalski can read in a few motions that she has, and I have one as well. Can we waive the rules? Thank you. Councillor Skalski.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm bringing forward this motion today, sadly, on the heels of two accidents that occurred recently in Osgood Ward at the corner of Dalmany and Nixon Road. I think that there are moments where we need to be using our discretion, and it's incumbent upon us to do so. And this is definitely, certainly one of those moments where we are so close to meeting the city's threshold in the warrant process. So I will read this in here now. Whereas the intersection of Nixon Drive and Dalmany Road in rural Ottawa South has had two serious accidents this year, including one on 28th of June, resulting in the tragic death of an 8-year-old child. And whereas the Ottawa Police is investigating the circumstances of the collision and is required to bring initial findings to the Fatal Collision Review Committee within 10 days of the collision, and this motion is not intended to prejudge the findings of those assessments. And whereas the city's latest Strategic Road Safety Action Plan annual report confirms that rural areas remain the only road safety action plan emphasis area where fatal and major injury collisions have increased. And whereas the rural intersection was reviewed for all-way stop control against council-approved rural arterial warrant criteria, which considers sightlines, collision history, and traffic volume, and was deemed not warranted in part because only 8 of the 9 required turning movement collisions were reported at this intersection in the past 3 years. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve the installation of an unwarranted all-way stop control at the intersection of Dalmany Road and Nixon Road, and be it further resolved that following the installation of the all-way control, staff assess the intersection for additional safety measures and report to the ward councillor the result of the assessment and options to fund proposed improvements.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions either from you, Councillor Skalski, or other members of committee to staff? I'm not seeing any. So colleagues, is that carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Councillor, why don't you keep going?
Okay, I have a second motion to bring forward here. Whereas Country Hill Estates is a subdivision where the Township of Osgood had an ownership role. And whereas Council on June 22nd, 2022, motion number 7914, as amended by a further motion adopted on November 30th, 2022, motion 2022-0207, approved a program to compensate owners in the second phase of the development in respective ditches, which were originally intended to be grass and sodded, but due to the rocky nature of the soils have been accepted by the city as gravel and stone ditches. And whereas the program provided compensation at the rate of $85 per meter of frontage, and whereas the program required an owner to request refunding within 90 days of an information package being mailed to the owner. And whereas the information packages were mailed on March 2023, And whereas in respect of lots upon which homes had not yet been constructed, the information packages were mailed to the addresses shown in the assessment rolls records available to staff. And whereas as to 1639 Loney Crescent, staff have been made aware that in respect of the mailing address for the current owner, the owner had not resided at such address since June 2013, and thus the information package was not received by the owner. And whereas the applicable amount in respect of 1639 Loney Crescent is $5,989.10. Therefore, be it resolved that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend to council that the owner at 1639 Loney Crescent be eligible for the ditch compensation program, subject to the execution of a release and amending subdivision and covenant agreements in the form utilized for the other properties under the program, and that the amount of $5,989.10 be funded from the Rural Affairs Office, account number 11212.
Thank you very much. Any questions to staff from the team? Seeing none, is this motion carried?
Carried.
Thank you. And colleagues, with your indulgence, I'll read in the notice of, well, the motion that I have for the speed reduction on Manotick Main Street. In the interest of time, I'll just read the last whereas clause and the operative clauses. Whereas staff do not have the required delegated authority to make speed limit changes outside of the council-approved speed zone policy and other related policies, therefore be it resolved that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend that council approve reducing the posted speed limit on Manotick Main Street from Century Road to Eastman Avenue to 50 kilometers an hour, and be it further resolved that staff be directed to complete the corresponding signage changes as soon as practicable. Colleagues, the village continues to grow in Manotick, as we know, and the stretch of road that's referenced in this motion will be highly populated by both businesses, a new planned multi-use pathway, and additional urban street designs in the near future. And instead of waiting for that work to be completed, I'm hoping committee doesn't mind expediting the reduction in the speed limit, which is something the committee has been looking for. So if there are questions, happy to entertain them to myself or staff. Seeing none, is that motion carried? Thank you very much. Just checking to see if there are any other walk-on motions that I'm unaware of. Seeing none. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Mark, Mr. Mark. I was going to hold that to the very end. And that's okay. It's always good to have lots of people looking over my shoulder. Colleagues, we're going to return back to the top of the agenda for the verbal update on the Rural Summit. Highly anticipated, and I appreciate staff waiting around. The favorite Laurel McCright is here. And I believe Laurel has a presentation. I will ask the vice chair to take over the committee for a moment.
Good morning, Chair, members of committee, and members of the public. My name is Laurel McCrate, and I work in the city's Rural Affairs Office. And today I will be presenting an update on the Rural Summit. Next slide, please. In November 2024, over 250 rural residents met directly with city leadership and staff. The summit focused on identifying key challenges facing rural communities. Residents told us they needed more responsive and better coordinated municipal services supported by clearer communication. The summit discussions focused on 3 areas: current service levels, future plans and policies affecting rural communities, and opportunities to strengthen and support rural Ottawa. This feedback has guided the work you'll hear about today. Next slide, please. At the summit, the mayor introduced his 10 commitments to rural Ottawa. These commitments reaffirm the city's dedication to improving rural services, representation, and quality of life. At the February 2026 ARAC meeting, Chair Brown provided an update on what has been accomplished, what is underway, and where continued advocacy and follow-through are required. Most commitments are now completed or are ongoing, showing measurable progress and accountability. Further to the mayor's commitments, the next few slides will address additional items that the city continues to move forward. Next slide, please. Since the summit, we've made important progress. The city has hired a dedicated lead for the Rural Affairs Office, strengthening capacity to coordinate rural initiatives. Cross-department collaboration has improved, and we now have a coordinated work plan that focuses on the topics raised at the summit. Next slide. Our work is organized across 6 themes and several departments: infrastructure, growth and environment, recreation and culture, economic development, social services, transportation, and emergency preparedness and first response. These categories reflect a range of items raised by rural residents at the summit and ensure we are advancing improvements across all service areas. Next slide, please. The first theme, infrastructure growth in the environment, shows a major priority is improving rural infrastructure. Staff have made strides on all ditching priorities stemming from the 2024 summit. Additional funding through the Roads Rural Ditch Maintenance Program will result in work shifting towards more proactive maintenance rather than reactive repairs. The condition and maintenance of roads has also improved with numerous surface upgrades since 2023. Next slide, please. This map illustrates several rural projects completed from 2023 to 2026 across the 5 wards. These projects include improvements to roads, culverts, water, and sewer projects. Next slide, please. The ability of rural residents to access the housing, services, and amenities they need in villages, be it people aging in place or raising a family, is associated with the ongoing growth of housing supply, sustaining services in the villages. Staff has started a detailed review of the potential for growth within the rural areas, smaller and mid-sized villages, recognizing that smaller villages should be considered separate from the larger ones. On the environmental side, oversight of the Rural Environmental Land Acquisition and Stewardship Program was moved from the Environment and Climate Change Committee to ARAC. Many hectares of land have been acquired and restoration and stewardship activities completed under this program. Next slide, please. Recreation and culture is the second theme. Rural parks will continue to play a unique and strategic role in delivering inclusive, accessible, and community-focused recreation opportunities for residents of all ages and abilities. Through the Cash in Lieu of Parkland program, life cycle renewal planning, and park revitalization projects, the city continues to invest in upgrading existing parks by replacing aging amenities, improving accessibility, and introducing new features that better support current patterns of use. A number of parks have been modernized, with additional parks introduced in the rural area to meet recreational needs of residents. Regarding culture, in 2025, engagement to inform the development of Ottawa's next municipal culture plan was established. 6 events were held across the rural wards to foster consultation. Continued efforts to strengthen cultural infrastructure and expand opportunities in rural areas can help improve access, support community identity, and recognize the unique contributions rural communities make to Ottawa's broader cultural landscape. Next slide, please. Another theme stemming from the summit was the condition of existing community facilities, indicating that renovations and upgrades would help maintain safe, functional, and welcoming spaces for community use. Upgrades and expansions have been completed at several community facilities, including the introduction of Wi-Fi, quick connect transfers, and emergency response lodging generators. Next slide, please. Rural residents also emphasize the need for stronger support for local businesses. The Economic Development Rural Plan, which was recently approved by Council in May, directly responds to the summit, highlighting the importance of economic development in our rural communities. The plan identifies 12 recommendations and associated actions to support a resilient, diversified, and competitive rural economy. Feedback from the summit identified key issues affecting rural economic development, suggesting that current zoning, planning policies, and approval processes should be reviewed. Staff are currently reviewing whether city policies and standards are unintentionally creating barriers to investment, business development, and economic diversification in rural villages. Next slide, please. Rural residents expressed challenges regarding the limited availability of social services and employment supports in their communities. In response, the city service delivery model is continuously adapted to ensure services are accessible, easy to navigate, and available when and where residents need them. Rural seniors continue to face limited affordable housing, few senior-focused programs, restricted health and support services, and persistent transportation barriers, all of which hinder aging in place, community participation, and independence. Ottawa's Older Adult Plan, recently approved by Council in 2025, reaffirmed the city's commitment to making Ottawa a city where older adults can age with choice and dignity. To ensure rural perspectives were reflected, relevant findings from the city's Rural Summit were incorporated into the plan's broader consultation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Rural residents reported a lack of public transit, leaving youth, seniors, and low-income individuals without reliable transportation. In response, staff are identifying ways to partner with private and nonprofit transportation providers to increase rural transit ridership. Next slide, please. Rural residents also highlighted ongoing road safety issues and the lack of continuous connections between neighborhoods, schools, and community facilities to support safe cycling and walking. The city will continue to expand and improve the rural active transportation network in line with city policies, such as by adding new sidewalks, pathways, and paved shoulders. The city will also require new developments in villages to provide active transportation facilities as per city requirements, and will also consider new links in the rural active transportation network as part of the next transportation master plan review. Safety on rural roads will also be strengthened by the city's newly approved approach to traffic management. Next slide, please. As Ottawa's population grows and rural communities continue to develop, demand for emergency response services, public safety, education, and community preparedness initiatives is increasing. The city remains committed to strengthening emergency response capacity, enhancing community resilience, and ensuring services evolve to meet the needs of rural residents. Investments in initiatives that help residents, organizations, and communities prepare for emergencies, respond effectively, and recover quickly is also a priority. The city also continues to implement targeted initiatives that enhance emergency response effectiveness across Ottawa's rural communities. Next slide, please. So next steps. The Rural Affairs Office will support implementation and advance many of these rural actions through strong coordination. We will meet with departments to align priorities, collaborate with subject matter experts to refine solutions and deliver results effectively. We will also work closely and meet monthly with rural counselors and coordinate budgeting with other departments. We will incorporate actions and priorities into strategic planning and will report back to ARAC annually. We want rural priorities to remain visible, funded, and oriented toward long-term outcomes. The work we are currently doing will help develop the next Rural Summit to encourage creative, practical, and community-driven solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Colleagues, the Vice Chair has a motion that I'm going to ask him to read in now, and then we can go to questions to staff. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Whereas the City of Ottawa held the 2024 Rural Summit to hear directly from rural residents regarding the issues most important to their communities, and whereas on February 5th, 2026, Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee directed staff to prepare a written report outlining the key findings of the Rural Summit and potential action items addressing the top concerns raised by participants. And whereas ARAC members understand that staff have continued refining this work to ensure that this report accurately reflects the feedback received and provides meaningful recommendations for ARAC's consideration. And whereas staff presentation to ARAC illustrates important progress stemming from the 2024 Rural Summit, while also making commitments to future progress through cross-departmental collaboration, annual reporting as part of the budget process, and another Rural Summit during the next term of council. And whereas ARAC members further recognize that given the importance of the Rural Summit and the significant investment of time by rural residents, it is preferable to receive a comprehensive, well-considered report that provides residents with the opportunity to review, provide comment on, and present to ARAC. Therefore, be it resolved that staff bring forward the Rural Summit report to the next meeting of the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee, and be it further resolved that the report include a summary of the principal themes and concerns identified in the 2024 Rural Summit, actions completed to date, actions currently underway, actions remaining outstanding, recommendations for future committee considerations, and an implementation timeline where appropriate. And be it further resolved that the following consideration of the report, the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee hold a dedicated public agenda item to receive written submissions and public delegations respecting the report's findings, recommendations, and proposed priorities before determining future Rural Summit actions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Colleagues, do we have questions for staff? Yeah, Vice Chair, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for being here today, Laurel, and your continued work on this. And I'll say a few things and then I'll ask some questions. So I am proud of the fact that as the first thing I did as councillor was to move the motion to bring back the Rural Summit after 16 years. And despite that being a promise at amalgamation that it would occur every term of council. So it was the first time in almost 2 decades that we have had a conversation directly with rural residents. And I know this was appreciated by many rural residents who took part in the workshops, filled out the survey, and of course attended the summit itself. And I'm also pleased with the deliverables since, which you did a great job of covering, Laurel. I believe based on this update and the last, that we've made noticeable progress on things such as ditching and drainage issues and how we address those. We have increased the capacity of the rural office by hiring you. We've amended the terms of reference for this committee, so more files are being debated here. We have liaisons in each department who provide a rural lens on reports as they make their way through the legislative process. And I think what is most important after the first Rural Summit in 16 years is that we have a foundation in place in terms of making those decisions here and having more influence on how we move forward as a city in terms of rural Ottawa and how to serve those residents. And that's why I think it's so incredibly important, especially that we've already committed to another Rural Summit next term of council, that we have that full report. And I will admit, it's a very large undertaking. We did not direct staff to do this until February, so about 5 months ago. But I think to the average member of the public, that's probably sufficient enough time for a report. So I just wanted to ensure that we are, and I think the presentation today has reassured me certainly that you are working towards that. And in fact, some of the things on that last slide that you presented in terms of aligning things with budgets and annual reports, I think are really, really positive. So with that all being said, we have committed to the next meeting a full written report. And I know that's not scheduled, it's not official, and we can't promise that in the motion itself, but we've talked about August. Do you feel confident that August is a appropriate time that you'll be able to deliver that report?
Yes, Chair, we do.
I look forward to hearing that report and the public delegations that come about. And thank you very much again for your work. And want to acknowledge that this is taking a little longer than we had anticipated, but I do think we have a good path forward and are on our way to a full report. So thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Councillor Kitts. All right, Councillor Skalski, any questions? And I'm not seeing Councillor Luloff online there. Comments from me. I do want to express my gratitude. This is a huge undertaking. This has not been done for rural Ottawa since amalgamation. And although it's taking longer than we all would hope, a lot of progress is being made. And Laurel, you should be proud. You've really helped us gel together to make sure that the message of rural Ottawa is getting into the public service and we're getting what we need out. And so you should be terribly pleased with your performance, because we are. I also think that residents should understand the benefits to the changes that we've made this term of council with the support of council and Mayor Sutcliffe in particular and the members of the Rural Committee. We really do have a great path forward and a strong foundation, something that's going to develop as we continue for the rest of this term and well into the next, aligning much of what we would like to see through those rural goals with the strategic plan and future budgets, I think will also add not only legitimacy, but a very clear path forward for us to action and achieve the goals that our residents provide for us. So thank you very much. And thank you to Marcia and Derek and the team. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. You guys are the driving force, and I think we've developed a fantastic working relationship between this side of the table and yours, and I'm looking forward to seeing that grow stronger over time. Councillor Luloff.
I think I'll just briefly say thank you to Laurel and the team. We've been able to achieve so much in our rural neighborhoods since the Rural Summit, and I really appreciate Councillor Kelly bringing this forward at the beginning of the term. It took a lot of tenacity and it took a lot of work to make sure that this actually happened this term, and I'm looking forward to the follow-up next term. I think that what we've been able to do is recognize the unique differences between our rural villages and between our rural areas and areas of the suburbs and downtown, that we've recognized that a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to warrants for things like sidewalk repairs, the different realities that rural businesses face. And I think that is incredibly important. The number one thing that I heard when I first got the honor of representing a rural area in Eastern Ottawa is that their voices did not feel heard. And I think that this has gone a long way to remedying that. The monthly check-ins, Laurel, that you do with all of us and our teams, they make a really big difference in solving the problems that come out of these sort of inequities, or perhaps sometimes just a lack of understanding of the differences between rural, urban, and suburban areas. So I just want to express my appreciation to you and the team, and to Councillor Kelly for his leadership in ensuring that this actually happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Colleagues, I'm not seeing any other questions to staff, so is the Vice Chair's motion carried? And can we receive the presentation from staff as information? So is that received? Thank you very much. Now, colleagues, through the course of today's meeting, staff identified another typographical error in item 9.1. I'll read what is in the report, or the motion rather, before us, and what it should have said. So recommendation 1 for item 9.1 was that Council approve the proposed amendment to the site alteration bylaw 2018-164 as attached as document 1. It should have read that Council approve the proposed amendment to the site alteration bylaw 2024-448 as attached as document 1. So colleagues, again, is that item carried? Thank you very much. I believe we don't have any notices of motion, but we do have an inquiry.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies, it's a long one. Following a number of serious collisions at rural intersections, concerns have been raised by residents regarding vegetation, brush, and long grass that may obstruct sightlines and reduce visibility for motorists. While maintaining adequate visibility is a fundamental component of road safety, rural intersections often present unique challenges due to irregular or limited public right-of-ways, drainage ditches, mature tree cover, and vegetation originating on adjacent private property. These conditions can complicate maintenance responsibilities and make it more difficult to ensure consistently clear sightlines throughout the growing season. To better understand the city's current practices and identify opportunities for improvement, could staff provide the following information? 1, what policies, standards, and maintenance practices govern brush clearing, tree and shrub trimming, and grass cutting at rural road intersections where vegetation may impact driver visibility? 2, what is the current frequency of inspection and maintenance for rural intersections? And is this work conducted proactively on a scheduled basis or primarily in response to resident service requests or identified hazards? 3, where vegetation originating from private property encroaches into the municipal right-of-way or obstructs sightlines at intersections, what is the process for addressing these concerns? How do public works and bylaw and regulatory services coordinate and ensure visibility hazards are addressed in a timely manner? 4, Over the past 2 years, how many service requests related to vegetation obstructing visibility at intersections have been received by Public Works? If available, what proportion do they represent of the total rural road service requests received? And 5, are there any collision history thresholds, traffic volume considerations, or other risk-based criteria used to prioritize vegetation maintenance at intersections? 6, what additional operational policy or maintenance measures could be implemented to better ensure the rural intersections consistently maintain safe sightlines throughout the growing season, including consideration of enhanced inspection programs, higher maintenance frequencies, targeted monitoring of known high-risk locations, or expanded collaboration with adjacent property owners where vegetation extends beyond the municipal right-of-way? And 7, is Public Works equipped and funded appropriately to put such measures in place? And if not, how much investment would be required? And I'm hopeful that we can provide that response within 45 days.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other inquiries that I'm unaware of? Seeing none, I believe we have accomplished today's agenda. The next meeting of ARAC is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, the 3rd of September. And unless there's any objections, we stand adjourned for the summer. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your time.